All right, so today we are looking at class versus individual evidence. So we've been talking about direct evidence, physical evidence, and we're talking about how that is broken up into different categories. Well, now there are two main categories that's going to fall into. So let's say you find a piece of evidence, okay, be that a bullet casing, a piece of fabric, anything like that, a fingerprint. That piece of evidence is going to be one of two types. It's either going to be class evidence or it's going to be individual evidence. So what's the difference? Well, class evidence, that's going to have things that are common to a group of similar objects, similar people. It's, for example, something that our entire class would have in common. For example, we could say that the fact that you are seniors is class evidence. If I said, oh, I'm looking for that senior, that doesn't really help me narrow anything down. Individual evidence is different, though. Now, that's going to help you narrow down to one specific single source or person. Now, notice both source and person are underlined. Not only, obviously, a person can be narrowed down, but also a source. And this is important because not necessarily everything is going to link to a certain specific person. A lot of people think, oh, well, that doesn't relate back to the suspect. Well, it might not directly relate to the suspect, but it may get us close. It may tell us, maybe it'll relate to a specific location that person was at, and subsequently can eventually lead us back towards a more probable suspect. Individual versus class. So, why even consider class evidence? Why would class evidence be anything that you as a forensic investigator would even consider? Because if it doesn't narrow it down to a specific person, what good is it? Well, what it does is it refines our pool of suspects. It allows us to, let's say, all right, say we find a size 11 shoe print at a crime scene. So, is it guaranteed the suspect left the print? Well, no. Does it guarantee that the suspect has a size 11 shoe? Yeah, so both those things, like, we can say it was the suspect left the shoe, but we can say that they left the shoe. What we can't say necessarily is that this specific shoe print was caused by, this person. For example, let's say I know it's a size 11 shoe, so in the class, how many people have a size 11 shoe? We may have 4 or 5 people in the classroom, that have a size 11 shoe. Now, does that mean that those are our killers? No. Does that mean they're a suspect? Not necessarily. Okay, but it does help us focus our investigation. Now, if there were a couple other subsequent pieces of evidence that we discovered, so not only was there a shoe print, let's say that there was a shoe print and a hair fiber and a fingerprint, and let's say all of those things are all class evidence, except for the fingerprint, that's individual, but let's say that we get a whole bunch of pieces of class evidence. If all of those things start to point repeatedly towards the same person, does that give an investigator reason to focus on one person? Yes. Okay, and that's the thing. So let's take a look at a couple examples here. Now, this is the part of the lesson where I'm going to ask you to do a little bit of interacting, a little bit of thinking. Okay, so focus. We're going to be thinking now. Okay, so I have 5 items here. Which of these would be examples of individual evidence? Things that are traced back to one specific single source. Okay, so let's take a look first at the top left picture. We have a bottle made up of piece 1, and then this guy is piece 2. Can you tell me for certain that piece 1 and piece 2 are connected? Let's say this one's found in the trunk of a car, and this one is found at the victim's location. Can we reasonably connect these two? Yes. What type of evidence was that? Remember yesterday we talked about a couple different types of evidence? Think about it. What type of evidence would that be then if those two things are found in different locations and can be connected? The answer is associative, so that would be associative evidence. And in this case, is that individual or class? It is individual. How about this tape? Okay, so you have number 1, you have number 2. Is it possible that these could be individualized? Okay, the answer is yes. If we focus in right here, we're going to identify something called a fracture pattern or a tear pattern. Same thing that happened over here on this glass. You can identify a fracture pattern. Okay, as you can see here in the glass and on the tape, those things, if they match up, all right, then that can be. Now, let's say that piece 2 and piece 1 don't match up. Does that prove that they didn't come from the same piece of tape? No, because, if I tore these off right away and then I cut it again here, well, now they're not going to match. So it'll match if this was the last piece from this roll. If not, they won't match, in which case then it's going to be class evidence. How about carpet fibers from a nasty shag rug or something going on here? Okay, possible. Can that be individualized? Okay, for fibers like that, usually we're going to say no. Usually, carpet fibers, clothing fibers, usually those cannot be individualized. What they can do is they can point us to a particular class, a particular group of a manufacturer, perhaps, a certain type of carpet that was made, but it can never be actually focused back specifically like that. So a more obvious one, how about a skull? Can a skull be individualized back to one specific single source or person? Obviously, yes. And then what about tire treads? Can tire treads be focused back to a single source? The answer on this one is actually kind of a yes and a no. It's definitely considered class evidence. Now, are there possibly individualized characteristics that we can find on here that are going to be unique to a specific tire? The answer there is yes. So if we can match those, it is possible that it could be individualized. All right. So I talked about this, garment fibers. Apparently that was from a sweater, not a nasty shag carpet. I like the shag carpet idea better because that would be sweet to have your house covered in that carpet. All right, let's move on. So let's say this pistol, it says, is found in a theater where a man was shot. A suspect known to have owned a Derringer like this one was apprehended. So would this specific gun be individual or class evidence? Okay, now I would say that this is going to be class evidence. This isn't the suspect's gun. This is one similar to it. It belongs to the same class as what we expect the suspect to have. So in that case, no, this is not individualized, even though the suspect may own a replica almost exactly like this one. If it's not the exact same gun, then it is class evidence. All right, how about these two bullets? Okay, bullet number 1, bullet number 2. Is it possible that I can definitely link these two and say that they were fired from the same gun? Okay, the answer here is actually yes. As long as I have all these pieces, I can actually match what's called striations that are going to be found on these two pieces. And if my striations match, I can prove that they were from the same gun. It's almost like a fingerprint that a gun leaves behind. All right, how about this? I have two pieces of tape. Is this individual or class? And why? Okay, so this it can be individualized, and then again, it's because of this, and I mentioned this already, and I want you to be aware of it. Remember, this is called either the fracture pattern or the tear pattern, and if we can match it up definitively, then we will be able to prove that these are both from, that they were sequential. One was torn off the other one. Okay? All right. How about here? All right, this is a bullet shell. So this is zoomed in a little bit of what I mentioned before. You see all the lines that are on this casing here, right here, here. Those are called those striations. Now, is it possible to match these striations and prove that this came from a certain gun barrel? Okay, is that going to make it individual or class evidence then? Okay, this is going to be possibly be individualized evidence. Okay, if I can match this to a barrel, then that is going to be definitive proof, and it's matching that same fingerprint pattern. All right, how about some jeans? We find a pair of jeans at a crime scene. Okay, is it possible to match those back to one specific owner? So then, make the connection. Is that going to make it individual or class evidence? Okay, and in this case, unless there's something supremely unique about these jeans, something individual to the owner, these are going to be class evidence. Okay, unless somebody got them, like, you know, studded in sequins or something like that, and she did it herself and it's super unique. Other than that, no, these are going to be class evidence. All right, how about a shoe? Is a shoe individual or class? Okay, so similar to the tire that I mentioned before, this is going to generally be considered class evidence. Now, what we will learn when we do our impression unit is we're going to actually learn that it's possible to individualize footprint analysis. Again, if there are certain features on this shoe that are unique to the owner, but also what's considered basically the wear pattern. Okay, so what's going to happen is as certain people walk, certain portions of the shoe print are going to get worn down, and that's going to be due to the supination of their feet. So if if the person is a little pigeon-toed, or if the feet are a little pointed out, that's going to wear different parts of the foot depending on how their stride is. Okay, so one stride may be like that, one may wear this way. Okay, and that's going to give distinctly different wear patterns, and so we can individualize that. Generally speaking, we consider shoe prints to be class evidence unless we're able to get that individualized treatment there. Okay, how about a weapon like this? All right, individual or class to find something like this at a crime scene? The answer is going to be class. Again, if there's DNA, so you can see a lot of things like this. They'll start maybe as class evidence unless you find some kind of unique characteristic. They would be considered individual. Okay, obviously a fingerprint, is that individual or class? Okay, a fingerprint is going to be individual evidence. If you're not already aware, every single person on the planet has a unique fingerprint. And so that can definitely be traced back to one single unique source, and the reason for that is due to these unique features we find on a fingerprint. The location of this, the location of this part, this little fun little thing happening down here in this region. Okay, we're going to learn about what those are called, and you will learn how to individualize a print with those classifications. All right, so here's the bottom of a shoe. Now this shows what I was mentioning before. Can this be individualized? In this case, I believe the answer should obviously be yes. You have this unique feature going on here. All right, you have look at all this wear that's happening all along here, completely worn free of tread. That's going to be relatively unique. Okay, so yes, this can definitely be individualized. All right, I believe that's the end. If I can figure out this stupid thing, here we go. So yeah, good, that's the end. All right, so here's the deal. Tomorrow you're going to have a quiz on this. I will be giving you pieces of evidence, and it's going to be incumbent upon you to determine whether or not this evidence is going to be individual evidence or class evidence. You will get a pre-quiz on this material tomorrow when you come in. And in order to do the lab, you have to pass the pre-quiz. So good luck.